a legal system, especially in a developing country like ours, where so many of our people are poor. I think that our legal system must be oriented in that manner. And for that to happen, we must begin with the students.
Thank you, Dean. There are some sectors who claim that and who have signified their opposition to your nomination, stating that you have an institutional, and I quote, an institutional and personal bias against men in uniform, the AFP and PNP, and for the Arroyo administration. Would you care to respond to that?
Well, I would beg to disagree with that. I have had many clients also from within the Army and the other members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I have represented both so-called leftists and rightists and centrists. To me, the labeling doesn't matter. What matters are the merits of the case and whether I can defend my clients or not.
You mentioned earlier that you would also want to institute reforms in legal education. Do you believe that having the multiple choice questions in the bar examination is a move towards that step?
Well, it is one of the moves I think that we have to do because of the number of students that are taking the bar. But I think that there are as well other skills that must be examinations. And I'm happy to hear that in this coming exam, the essay format will still be put back in. Because I think for lawyers, especially, the ability not only to communicate orally, but in writing is essential. And even as far as the court is concerned in evaluating the bar examinations, I think it's important that there be set standard prescribed criteria to assess the student's performance.
How much premium would you give to student internship programs, especially if you would like to promote human rights?
I would give it the high priority, not just internship, as well as I would include legal aid. I think that legal aid should become more common in all the law schools. It's a good idea for us to tap the law students while they're still in law school, expose them to the reality of the justice system, and let them learn for their own eyes how to deal with that system.
Now, as regards legal aid, there is a pending bar matter which has yet to be revived, and I'm referring to what was called as the mandatory legal aid service, and which was renamed as comprehensive legal aid service, mandating that all lawyers should be required to render legal aid. Don't you think that making it mandatory would just be legislating or the compassion? Because I said, if legal aid is supposed to be an act of compassion of lawyers and law students, then you're either compassionate or you're not.
Yes, Your Honor, that is one of the criticisms of the mandatory legal aid system. In the United States, the American Bar Association, legal aid is not mandatory. But based on the studies that I saw there, a lot of lawyers give legal aid, perhaps even more than in a system where it is made mandatory. That's why I would take a slightly different approach from requiring legal aid to be mandatory. I don't think you can compel that kind of service. And even if you did, the quality of work that might be provided by the lawyer would not exactly be the same as the one they would give a paying client. So I would also look to the law firms that have more resources to also give a little bit more than the other firms perhaps that don't.
You have no qualms of the proposal for some parties who may not be able to render legal aid to just contribute to the fund that would help other legal aid lawyers in pursuing?
In that respect, no, but I don't think it would be sufficient for them to comply with their duty to provide pro bono services. They may give money, but I think every lawyer should still help a poor client.
Moving on, I'd like to ask you about something that I think you have personally experienced. What do you think was the purpose of in the Constitution when it requires the filing of SAL-Ns, but that such disclosure to the public will be in a manner provided for by law? You have been required to submit a SAL-N, and you have expressed that you have found difficulty in complying with the same. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a SAL-N is really important for all government officials. It's not only the baseline to determine whether they will acquire ill-gotten wealth during their period of tenure, but it's also a way of determining conflicts of interest, especially among the judiciary. I have nothing against, in fact, I'm in favor of filing a SALN. My only problem, Your Honor, was I only learned of the requirement Friday afternoon, and I was supposed to submit it by Monday, and it would be wrong for me to submit a haphazard SALN. After all, that's going to be filed for posterity. I would like to make sure that everything that I can include there that should be declared is fully complied, and it's difficult to do that in the span of 24 or 48 hours.
Do you believe that a SALN should be immediately made public, or there should be a law that would regulate how the
I believe that
SALN
the
is?
SALN is already covered by Republic Act 6713, and that the restrictions imposed by that law and the rules for access by the public should be followed by all branches of government.
Thank you, Dean. Moving on, we have a rule-making power of the Supreme Court under Article 8, Section 5, Paragraph 5 of the 1987 Constitution. And how would you use this rule in order to address the issues of delay in the disposition of cases and in order to allow the underprivileged access to justice?
I'm not sure that the issue of delay can be directly addressed by the issuance of a new rule. We already have a lot of rules that were designed especially for the poor litigants. Perhaps a greater re-examination of how we conduct our trials is something that would benefit us in terms of dealing with the problem of coming up with faster and cheaper justice. For me, for example, one of the biggest problems that we have as far as delay is concerned is we suffer from a lack of judges. The 26.9% of our trial courts have no judges. That means more than 1 out of every 4 trial courts ay wala pong judge. Of course, we cannot deal with so many cases being filed until we can address that problem of a national vacancy rate. Another problem that we have is many of our trial judges are fond of making evidentiary rulings that do not specifically decide the evidence, for example, of the prosecution. So a judge will say, oh, your evidence is admitted for whatever it's worth. And now you have the defense counsel saying, I don't know what evidence has been admitted by the prosecution, so I will now adopt a shotgun approach. I will present as much evidence as I can because I want to ensure that my client is acquitted. And that really causes a cluttering of the record and also as well a lot of delay. A third problem I think we have in our court procedure is the lack of a mechanism for pre-trial motions to suppress. If only we could adopt that mechanism, which has been followed in the States and in many other countries, many cases that reach the Supreme Court after 15 years and are thrown out by the Supreme Court, for example, for lack of counsel in a confession. Eh, yun po sana, sa pre-trial pa lang natapos na yung issue na yan. And we would save a lot of money and a lot of time if we could adopt that kind of procedure.
Thank you, Dean. If I may just say something with respect to your observation that there are 26.9% of our courts that are unfilled, it may interest you to know that we are now trying to trim down that percentage by ensuring that all courts, regardless of caseload, will be filled as soon as possible, and that although we are experiencing difficulty in filling up courts in the remote areas, include especially in Tawi-Tawi, there are no applicants. So perhaps you might want to encourage your friends to join the judiciary and volunteer for the far-flung areas.
One of the other things, Your Honor, that I would like to see happen is that even in law school, our students will already be given the offered the opportunity to enter the judiciary. Perhaps in the future we could have a system where when you enter law school, you will already elect that if you want to become a judge, you can take certain special courses that will qualify you for the pre-judicature requirements, so that later, at least from the time they are in law school, we can already form their mind into believing that they will be judges of the country.
Unfortunately, also, we don't have a system of internship in the courts.
That would be nice too.
What safeguards would you give, assuming that we would allow clerkship in the courts to ensure that the issues of confidentiality does not become a problem?
I think the clerkship is a very good idea. It's been done very successfully in other countries, Australia, I believe, in the States and other developed countries. we could probably copy from them, get the same kinds of safeguards that they use initially, and then develop our own from there.
Thank you, Dean. My last question.